members of the committee, we're going to switch to House Bill 678, Delegate Guyton, Arts, Equity, and Education Act. You're muted, Delegate. Hey, Haley, Sarah, can we unmute Delegate Guyton? Oh, there you go.
Does that work? Okay,
Yep.
I, again, have no idea how that keeps happening to people. Thank you so much. I'm here now, Delegate Guyton, District 42B, Baltimore County, to request your consideration of House Bill 678, Arts, Equity, and Education Act. This is my last one for today. Thank you for your patience and your consideration. This bill aims to expand access to arts education by requiring the State Department of Education to strengthen accountability for compliance with COMAR, Code of Maryland regulations for the fine arts, and it also establishes a grant program to achieve these aims. The Arts, Equity, and Education Act dedicates funding to supplement school district efforts in meeting COMAR requirements and closing equity gaps in arts education. And equity is really what this bill is about. The funding may be used for resources, staffing, materials, equipment, professional development, and will be administered by MSDE through existing grant and reporting processes that are already required in COMAR. So we know arts education has been shown to promote academic achievement, have therapeutic behavioral benefits, and even improve the attendance of kids. Each and every student in Maryland deserves to have access to high quality arts education as part of their public school education, but they don't. Education and arts education is not equitable. For example, Anne Arundel County and Queens Anne County schools have an average of more than 4 arts teachers per school, which is great. Baltimore City schools average fewer than 2. Baltimore City also has the highest teacher workload in the arts compared to all of the other jurisdictions by far. So the Arts, Equity, and Education Act would work to close gaps like these. I urge a favorable report on House Bill 678 designed to increase equity in arts throughout Maryland. Thank you so much.
Thank you. First speaker we have is on your panel is Rick Tyler.
Thank you, Vice Chair Washington, members of the committee. My name is Rick Tyler of the Maryland Education Coalition. I also have 50 years experience as a music educator, performer, researcher, and advocate for the arts. And MEC supports HB 678, Arts, Equity, and Education Act. The National Association for Music Education stated, it's imperative that all students have access to an equitable delivery of arts education that includes dance, media arts, music, theater, and visual arts that supports the education, social, and emotional well-being of all students. MEC agrees. This bill, when passed, will help ensure that all schools provide all students adequate, equitable access to all art forms using experienced instruction of quality as defined in COMAR and the blueprint. Denying Maryland students quality access to the full range of arts education is no different than denying them access to English, math, science, or social studies. Arts education is not just about who's the gifted. Also, it is a graduation requirement. The arts is also the only universal language and the only core subject area that has a direct correlation with all the other core subject areas. And research finds that structured art and music education programs taken over 2 years or more often results in higher SAT scores and more students attending and staying in college. Since learners are the future contributors and creative leaders of tomorrow's workforce, arts education is essential to every learner's educational foundation and training for future employment in an increasingly complex and interconnected world. Therefore, MEC urges the General Assembly and the committee to report favorably on HB 678, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tyler. We're next going to have Julia Debuslow.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Delegate Guyton and members of the committee. My name is Julia Debuslow, and I'm the Director of Arts Every Day, a nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing equitable access to the arts in Baltimore City schools. The arts are required, and they are required core subject area under the state's education regulations in COMAR section 13A.4. This regulation is currently an unfunded mandate. Lack of dedicated funding contributes to inequitable access to the arts statewide, but especially in rural districts and districts with high concentrations of poverty. This bill takes the transformative step of allocating funds to ensure that schools can meet COMAR's requirements. And it is important to note that it would expand the existing line item of the Fine Arts Grant within the state budget and be administered by MSDE through existing request and reporting procedures. Districts will be able to request funding to supplement their existing efforts to meet COMAR and use funds based on their unique needs. HB 678 will make a tremendous impact on a district like Baltimore City that has already been steadily increasing access to the arts through a community-supported strategic plan, but still has a long way to go towards equitable access. Since adoption of the Baltimore City Fine Arts Plan, the total number of fine arts teachers has increased by 40%. But as of school year 2021, there's still a lot of inequities that persist, with only a few schools offering dance, theater, and instrumental music. The Equity in Arts Education Act will enable city schools to make significant progress on the remaining equity gaps. I support HB 678 and ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
That was perfect. Thank you. Janaya Harris.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janaya Harris, and I'm a senior at Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. I am here today to voice my support of HB 678, the Equity in Arts Education Act. Art is important to my peers and I because it gives us a voice, and art allows us as young people to let out those inner feelings and express ourselves fully. Without access to arts, many young people will be robbed from experiencing their full potential greatness. When I first started school, I attended a Baltimore County school, and I had the opportunity to explore my art interests with visual art, music, and more. When I attended a county school, I remember being able to paint as much as I wanted without even realizing that it was a privilege. In the second grade, I moved from the county to the city and had to attend a city school. My experience at a city school was totally different from a county school. From the supplies to the environment and the programs, there was an extremely noticeable difference in the county and the city school as a whole. To think that I would not even know what that experience was like had I not moved amazes me till this day. I am happy to have had that experience with both schools because now I understand the importance of using my voice when it comes to equity and arts. HB 678 will take a big step towards making sure all students have access to art, music, theater, dance, and media arts, no matter where they live in Maryland. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Next, we'll have Ikeno Wosu. Ikeno Wosu.
I'm right here.
There you go, my man. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for your consideration on this important bill. My name is Ikeno Wosu, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Maryland, and I'm here to voice my support for House Bill 678. For a long time, the value of art education has been extremely underappreciated. Fine arts has been proven to provide benefits that ties into the both mental and physical well-being, the mental and emotional well-being of students. It is important that we promote fine arts in our schools because it stimulates our students' creativity, confidence, and perseverance, which is all important for their development. Students who participate in a variety of art activities increase their verbal, reading, and math skills, as well as their critical thinking skills, such as analyzing and problem solving. Many students in this state do not have access to adequate fine arts program in their schools, especially those who come from low-income community. For this reason, funding for more adequate fine arts programs in our schools would be transformative for our students who do not have access to these types of programs. So I urge the committee to vote favorable on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Michael Bell.
Vice Chair, he's not here.
Michael Bell is not here. So we'll go to Crystal Williams.
Hello, my name is Crystal Williams, and I am a 15-year educator from Maryland Public Schools, spending the first 14 years in Baltimore City Public Schools. My story is that of I am a product of Maryland Public Education. I am a student, and I am currently a teacher in Prince George's County, but my first years was spent in Baltimore City Public Schools. After spending a great amount of time in Prince George's County, I'm from Accokeek, Maryland, which is a very rural area. I attended school in Accokeek, and from Accokeek to being in Oxon Hill, Maryland, my experience was relatively the same with the arts. I was able to start band in the 6th grade and ultimately able to continue to and through high school all the way to college, and thus become a successful music major and first-generation college student. It has been over 30 years since I've been in a public school, and the problem with equity has changed immensely in a new district, Baltimore City, which I would find upon graduating from Morgan State. My first position, I spent the first week trying to locate instruments for a program in middle school in which I was the very first music teacher ever hired. I spent hours of locating instruments in pawn shops and having instruments donated because there was simply not enough money to provide me the inventory to be the best that I could be for my students, starting with their most basic needs. For many of my students, purchasing instruments on their own is not a feasible option, so their materials and requests for supplies lie solely on the school. This is a problem that occurs in many of our lower economic areas and districts in Maryland, specifically Baltimore City Public Schools. As the music technology chair for MMEA, I've gathered data on regional representation for all state level ensembles, and the dynamics are different. One, only 75%.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Williams, thank you very much. Can you wrap your last comments for us, please?
Yes, I stand here today to say that this bill 6778 will greatly increase staffing and resources for some of our most low economic areas and districts in rural areas. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Last speaker will be Frank Patton. Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the committee. I'm Frank Pattonella, a senior education advocate for the ACLU of Maryland, and we strongly support House Bill 678 to bolster arts education throughout our state. You have my testimony, so I'll use my time to talk about how the arts has been life-changing for me. Growing up as a brown kid with parents from other countries was difficult. On top of that, I had significant learning disabilities and bouts of depression. I had a hard time fitting into the structure of school, and I was always behind my peers academically. But then it happened. By chance, my mother found me playing the piano by ear at a friend's house in 4th grade. And that's where my musical journey began.
Staffing and resources for some of our
and lessons. Sorry, I need to call.
Yeah, Miss.
Okay, my parents got me a piano and lessons, and I loved it. It helped me socially, making friends as I played in bands and for my church. It helped me learn how to concentrate and focus. I started doing better in other classes. And as an introvert, music was always there when I was feeling depressed. Honestly, I'm pretty certain I wouldn't be here if I didn't have it. I went on to study music theory and composition as one of my majors, and also picked up a minor in jazz piano in college. I went on to graduate school and became a social worker in Baltimore City schools. I remember one boy who wouldn't open up, so I tried something new. I sat him down at a piano, laid down some simple jazzy groove, and gave him just one note to improvise, like da, 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 right? Then I gave him another note, da, 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 and so on, right? He began opening up, and pretty soon he was jamming, and more importantly, he was smiling. And he improved to the point where he didn't need weekly counseling. And this also brings up the issue of how we approach mental health. It's not always about deficits, but that's for another day. He kept coming back and other kids started coming, wanting to learn music. So I took it on, became an organized after school program with around 25 students. And at the end of the year, I helped them organize an event that featured their own work. Poetry, spoken word, set to music, dance, comedy routines, and other theatrical sketches. For me, this reinforced the belief that arts education is so universal.
Mr. Pettinella, can you give us your last comment, please?
Sure. So I just want to say, let's change a lot of lives with the arts and fill our schools with music and creativity via a favorable vote on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Delegate Guyton and her panel? Seeing none, that concludes the public hearing for House Bill 678.